Welcome back to Cosmoholics Anonymous. I am your favorite mother of three, single mother of three, bougie vintage, and today's video is a story time. This story time will actually be a part of the Power and Control Wheel series, and we are going to dive into some things, honey. So the first issue I want to tackle on the Power and Control Wheel is actually using male privilege, because I was doing a little bit of research and I actually came across an old, very old journal entry from 2014, and it really was foreshadowing what my life was going to be, but I ignored it. I really feel like, and you know, a lot of people might shoot me for this, but I really feel like I am a big part of my own demise. I feel like my own negligence is really what played a major role in my situation, because all the signs were there. Like, if I'm taking y'all back to 2014, I was overlooking a lot of things and making a lot of excuses for a lot of behaviors, and like, that's really where I dropped the ball. I guess I needed to learn some things, and I've grown up since then, you know. 2014 is a long time ago, but this one situation in particular really stood out to me, and obviously this was really the beginning, or such an eye-opening thing for me to see back then, that the person that I was dealing with was problematic. So on the Power and Control Wheel, using male privilege has a few different points under it. It says treating her like a servant, making all the big decisions, acting like the master of the castle, and being the one to define men's and women's roles. If I take you guys back to 2014, this is the year that my ex was shot. That's a whole other story for a whole other day. I have not shared that story on my channel before, but it was never a secret that he had been stabbed one time and another time shot. Obviously, those are red flags in itself, because I have never been shot or stabbed, but that is neither here nor there. So in 2014, my ex was shot and he was in the hospital for a little bit of time. I don't remember if he was in the hospital for a week or 2 weeks, but he was shot in his femoral artery. If you are unfamiliar with what that is, it is basically one of your major arteries. And the likelihood of actually surviving a gunshot wound like that is not high. So he is very blessed. But basically, there was an article we had read one time that stated in order to survive a gunshot wound to your femoral artery, you would have to be shot literally in the emergency room. Obviously, he was not shot in the emergency room, but he was transported to the emergency room. I was not allowed to go with him at the time. That is, like I said, another story for another day. But that being said, I definitely made it to the hospital that night when he got out of surgery. From the night that he got out of surgery to the day he got out of the hospital, I had traveled 2 hours there and 2 hours back home every single day. So I would wake up in the morning, I would get ready, I would go to the hospital, I would sit with him for hours, and then I would take the bus back home by myself, obviously. And so I did that daily for, let's say he was in the hospital for 2 weeks, I did it every day for 2 weeks, 14 days, back and forth. Now, he was getting antsy while he was in the hospital and he wanted to come home early. And so he wasn't supposed to come home when he did, because he was actually supposed to go from the hospital to physiotherapy, but he didn't want to do that, and so he didn't stay in physiotherapy for as long as he was supposed to. Or when he left the hospital, like, he was supposed to do physiotherapy for X amount of time, and he wanted to leave that program early, and he was not ready to leave that program, but he insisted that he's good, that he can go, and refused to listen to anybody. And so he ended up leaving early, which meant that I was not really prepared for him to come home yet. So on May 30th, 2014, this is like 2 weeks after he was shot, he was out the hospital. I'm just gonna read the journal entry and then we're gonna break it down. So it says, at his cousin's house, it says his cousin's name there, shaving my ex's neck. He wouldn't be able to understand if I explained my frustration and annoyance. I'm not quite sure I understand it myself. Am I annoyed with him being helpless or him having an attitude and thinking it's because I have an attitude when really it's just like I've been trying to be selfless and be here for him, but who's here for me? I've stuck by his side through all the madness. I've traveled distances to watch him sleep. I've held my tongue when he starts to rub me the wrong way. And you know what he said to me? Can I ask you something without you getting angry? And immediately I knew what it was going to be. I said to him, will I be angry if you ask me? Knowing damn well he knew the answer would be yes. And he proceeded to ask me, what have you done in 2 weeks?
The woman was too stunned to speak.
Let's unpack that, okay? Because this is definitely giving male privilege, male dominance. What have you done in 2 weeks? Oh, I don't know. Travel 4 hours daily to see you. Make sure that you're good. Make sure that you're fed because hospital food was disgusting. What have I done in 2 weeks? Girl, I was perplexed. Let me continue. He asked me this because he needed boxers and the room was a mess and the garbage hadn't been taken out. I was beyond frustrated because for 2 weeks, 98% of my time was dedicated to him and being at the hospital and traveling back and forth between what used to be home and the overbearing, depressing ass stink bomb we call the hospital. The hospital smelled disgusting, but that's neither here nor there. One thing that I am not mentioning here is that the whole time my ex was in the hospital, I was staying at our house that was not secured. So a few things happened. One, after he was shot, the door got kicked in.
Miss Jackson.
Another story for another day. So the door got kicked in by the police. They illegally raided the house. Another story for another day. So I was staying at that house and there was no lock on the door. My address was on the news because he got shot. So like I had called the news the day that he got shot and was cussing them out. Period, bitch! Telling them to remove my address because they're putting us in danger and all this stuff. So pretty much I wasn't even like fully sleeping most nights because my door couldn't lock at night. It was broken. The front door to the house was broken. Like, and this person was asking me what I'd done in 2 weeks. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, I wasn't surprised. I knew it was coming, but I was playing the waiting game. That showed me that I knew exactly who he was and how much I actually knew him. I knew what he was thinking before he even let it roll off his tongue. When we got home, all I wanted to do was sleep a little bit, but because it's his world, he had an attitude with me. He wanted to get a haircut and go to his cousin's house. I don't have a car. I barely have bus fare. We had the opportunity to go do all the stuff we needed to do before we got home because his uncle had picked us up and offered to help us with errands, but he refused. So this was the other thing. His uncle had picked us up from the place, the hospital or whatever, and was like, hey, do you need to go to the bank? Do you need to do this? Like, because he has a truck. He's like, I can drive you wherever. But he was like, no, like, it's okay. It's fine. We have no car. We're taking the bus everywhere. He is limping. He has crutches. Like, problematic AF, okay? And he tells his uncle, no, he doesn't need help. Then wants to go to the ends of the freaking earth to go get a haircut. His uncle could have drove him to get a haircut and waited for him so that we wouldn't have to be on the TTC, okay, with a fresh gunshot wound. Like, it's nowhere near healed. So let me continue. I had to pressure him to let his uncle drive us to the bank. See what I said? He said something like, I guess that's a good idea because I don't have any cash on me and I need a new bank card anyway. You're damn right it was a good idea. That's what I literally wrote here. His uncle could have driven us everywhere if we needed him to. Instead, we took the bus. At this point, he was walking slower than you can comprehend. I have to wait long periods if I walk ahead. I have to break out of my old ways. So here I am like, it's not my fault he got shot. It's not my fault, none of these things. Of course, I'm empathetic towards him, but I was literally taking the initiative to break out of my old ways and accommodate this person because I felt that that was my role. And he had asserted dominance from back then, but I'm not registering it as that, right? Anyhow, he wasn't supposed to get out until Monday, which is 3 days from today. Our gas bill was through the roof and got cut off, so we had no hot water. I washed the dishes with boiling water from the stove last night. If I had until Monday like I was supposed to, the house would have been clean for him. That was my intent. But he wanted to come home early, so I didn't get the chance. I just can't believe he asked me what I've done in 2 weeks. It's really effing with me. You inconsiderate bastard fuck.
Damn.
I was so mad, like literally so mad, because what? I couldn't, even right now telling you guys this story, I could not believe that he had asked me that. And that stuff really never changed. And so I'll probably end up telling another story about a more recent time where male dominance was exerted, especially because it was always very subtle. It was never verbatim saying, I'm the man of this house, and racist. It was more so passive aggressive. It would come out passive aggressively. That's how I feel about him. When I said most of my time was consumed by the hospital, he had the nerve to tell me no, it wasn't. I said, let's do the math. 1.5 hours to get ready, traveling another 1.5 hours, being at his bedside varied, but I would spend at least 6 hours a day there. One time I even slept there overnight, traveling back home 1 hour and 45 minutes. Then all the hours I laid in bed exhausted, not being able to sleep or eat, and lack of energy thereof, to do the same-ish the next morning. So that sums up my 2 weeks. Not to mention the wild goose chase I went on to get money to buy him effing Jordans. Ooh, girl.
Are you not ashamed of yourself? Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
You know what they say, never buy a man a pair of shoes because he gonna walk right out your life. Wish you would have done that back then, child. Would have saved me some turmoil. Oh my God. But facts. He was laid up in the hospital, and I will never forget this. I waited outside. It was me and my bestie at the time. We waited outside at Scarborough Town Center for Jordan 6s, the Carmines. And I was there for hours and hours and hours. Like, my name was damn Money Long. Okay, like, this was problematic. And all this was for him. And he sat there asking me what I have done in 2 weeks. Catering to you like this is Destiny's Child, sir. Like, come on now. I ain't about to fool with this man like this. And the gag was, literally, I didn't have the money to buy the man the Carmines. And he didn't have the money either. And I'm there scrambling around trying to get the money to buy the Jordan. Like, why is Jordan's your priority? Why is Jordan's my priority right now? This is the ghettoest-ish ever. Like, period. This is so ghetto. I waited in line from 9 p.m. the night before, no sleep. And what did I do for the last 2 weeks? Ugh! That's my frustration right there. The way he's so inconsiderate. Pause. These niggas telling him he must have 9 lives and he eating that shit up. It's not funny to me. Okay, so I must have wrote this. I wrote this at his cousin's house. We were, I guess, hanging out there. And they were telling him that he has 9 lives. Like a cat. And they were acting like it was funny. Like, it literally wasn't funny. And I see how much more it's not funny now when I see that from childhood into adulthood, the trauma and the PTSD that affected me and my children down the line. So now it's really not, it wasn't funny to me back then when they were telling him he has 9 lives and he's eating it up like it was funny. But really, it was a coping mechanism because back then, there was PTSD there as well. Anyhow, back to what I was saying. I got home from getting his ass, and he didn't want me to sleep. He wanted to go get a haircut and do this and do that. And I'm like, let me just effing sleep. He started yelling about, I'll go by my effing self. And blah, blah, effing blah. Everything is him, 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 him. My world now revolves around him. If I didn't like his attitude before, I surely don't like it now. Anyway, this isn't the same as writing, so I'm just gonna stop. Now he's mad that I accidentally stepped on his shoe. The Carmines. Who told you to wear that? This man is limping, okay? Limping down the street. He can barely walk. He's on crutches, but he wants to stunt in the shoes that I waited for from 9 p.m. till God knows what time for. He wanted to stunt in these shoes. I accidentally stepped on them and he was cussing me out. Girl, this is what I'm saying. Like, I was putting up with a lot of things and looking past a lot of things and making excuses for certain behaviors. And so I I strongly believe that those things are on me. Obviously, if you know better, you do better. I know better now. So like, there's just things that I will not tolerate in a relationship. And making excuses for somebody's behaviors is definitely one of those lessons that I learned the hard way, because I was always considering my ex and never considering myself or my feelings. My feelings were always put on the back burner. So no matter how he made me feel, no matter how he talked to me, I would always chalk it up to his upbringing, or he didn't have a good example. I didn't have one either, but I don't be talking to people crazy. Like, where they do that at? From the very beginning of the relationship to the very end of the relationship, if I made the mistake of stepping on this person's shoes, he would lose it on me. Like, all the time, whether we're at the grocery store, whether we're out walking down the street, if I stepped on his shoe, I would get yelled at, to the point where I'm making sure that I'm keeping a certain distance from him walking so that I don't step on his shoe. Unacceptable! They're on the damn ground, sir. In Wally, Wally's Walmart. In Wally, he says, I should have stayed in rehab till effing Monday. I told your ass. Shake my head. Then when I start talking about he doesn't like to listen, he catches a fit yelling, shh. Yeah, because you don't like to hear the effing truth. Then also, take a wheelchair. But no, shake my head. I am so over this. I do not feel bad. Ooh, girl, I did not feel bad. I really didn't. Because literally everything I said was irrelevant, because I'm a woman, because I'm dumb, because I don't know it better than he does. I told him to take a wheelchair because he was allowed to take one. He refused. You could have been wheeling. I could have been pushing you. Life could have been simple. He wanted to walk after just getting shot in his femoral artery, which made no sense. So he had crutches, but refused the wheelchair, and he really, really needed the wheelchair. And everything that I said, it was no, 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 because I don't know nothing. And the whole male dominance, male privilege thing. But like the whole, what have you done in 2 weeks? That really bothered me. And I really can't say why I didn't just break up with him back then. I just felt bad. Like, I don't know. But it was confusing for me because I had a lot of love for this person. And I wasn't really quite understanding what our dynamic was, even in 2014. And so obviously there's going to be people that are like, well, girl, if he was showing you that back then, I can't feel bad for you now. Well, I don't need anybody to feel bad for me, okay? I felt bad for myself already. Like, you know what I mean? I feel, I think really, I feel most bad for my children, but like, it is what it is. That is something that's really the only thing I feel guilty about. I feel guilty about like, not taking the red flags as red flags and procreating with this person and not being able to give my kids the life that I believe my kids deserve. Partner or a co-parent even that can give them what they deserve. That's really where I feel guilty about now when I look back at things, but I also am still every day learning to show myself compassion, because the fact of the matter is I really just didn't know. I wasn't paying enough attention. And though I have these journal entries from 2014 to 2022, though I have these, you know, things to validate my feelings, a lot of the stuff that I was writing down was just so that I didn't feel resentment. And I actually didn't know that I documented that situation. I was looking for something else on my phone and I came across that. And it didn't shock me because I remember experiencing certain things, like this whole 2 weeks business, like this whole what have you done for 2 weeks, it always kind of stuck with me. Like, he really said that to me? Like, I was doing a lot in 2 weeks. You weren't here. You got to have your hot shower, hot bath at the freaking hospital. I didn't have no hot bath because our gas was cut off. And you're going to sit here and ask me what I did for 2 weeks. I couldn't do anything because we didn't have no damn hot water to do anything. Like, literally wash the dishes with boiling water from like, the struggle was real. Like, the struggle was so real. And keep in mind, this is all happening before I ended up in the shelter, which we were still together at that point. I was in the shelter. He wasn't in the shelter. But I think when I look back at this situation in particular and realize, oh, well, damn, you know, if I left him back then in 2014 when I was obviously highly offended that he even fixed his mouth to ask me what I've done in 2 weeks. Obviously, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I wouldn't be sharing this experience with you. Well, I might be sharing this experience with you. The story would be completely different. It would have been, I was dating this guy and he got shot, and I was running back and forth between Malvern and Sunnybrook Hospital for 2 weeks straight. And the guy asked me, what have I been doing for 2 weeks, because he came home earlier than he was supposed to, blah, 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 blah. Versus I stayed with this person and my life was pretty much in shambles from the moment that I allowed this person into my life until the moment that I decided this person's not allowed to have access to my life anymore. I think that me sharing my experiences is super important because these are things that people sweep under the rugs and, you know, pretend that aren't happening. It is hard to accept that I was so foolish. You know, it is hard to accept that I really tried to make things work with somebody that things just would never work with. But it took a lot of me doing self-reflecting, and it took a lot of me learning who I am. And also, once you guys get to hear the last conversation I had with my father, it'll really kind of make things make sense for you, because model homes, those relationships we have with our mom, with our dad, with whoever raised us, those examples that were set for us, those things always are going to play a major role in who we choose to partner with, procreate with, whatever, whether we like it or not. If we don't heal those things, it's simply what we feel comfortable with and what we attract. So my father is extremely emotionally unavailable. My ex-husband, extremely emotionally unavailable. And I really didn't realize that my ex was emotionally unavailable until I had children with him. That's when I realized he was emotionally unavailable. It didn't really bother me. It felt like home. But once a wake-up call there for me after I had kids that really just opened my eyes to the situation and allowed me to see that this ain't it. It was a struggle because I didn't want to accept that my ex was emotionally unavailable. I said, no way, you know? I was like, yeah, no, I don't, you know? And so I'm fighting with my ex tooth and nail to really just get him to step up and do what I knew that he was capable of. A lot of women and some men stay in situations way longer than they're supposed to because they believe in patience, potential, and promises. And once you realize or decide that enough is enough, obviously you can do what you need to do to get what you deserve. But you can't beat a dead horse. You can't sit there and be like, oh, tomorrow is gonna be better. And then tomorrow comes and tomorrow's not better. And then you say, well, you know what? The next day is gonna be better. Oh, the next day, oh, the next day. Girl, it's not gonna happen. Like, we lie to ourselves. And a lot of the times it's because we have families, you know, we have different situations. We're trying to break generational curses and we're trying to do this and that and, you know, make a healthy, happy home for our children. And that was always my main concern. What does my home life look like for my children? That was always my main concern. And so I didn't want my children to be continually witnessing this male dominance thing because I'm raising 3 little girls. They are being subjected to the idea that men are the king of the castle. I mean, it's bad enough they love the princess movies and think Prince Charming is gonna come flying out the sky and giving them a kiss. You know, it's bad enough that we have those things being taught to them. And it's obviously our job as a parent to monitor and explain what we can and make sense where we can make it make sense. I knew that it was problematic for my kids to see what I saw as a child, which was somebody that is not there, not present, not doing much, and only the women are doing things, especially in the home. Because the only difference between my ex and my father was that my ex held down a job. He didn't get his first job until I was pregnant with my first child. Not his first job since I met him, his first job since being shot. So that was really important to me, you know, that he get a job, because I didn't want my kids to see what I saw, which was a man in the house that's not working. And I feel like that really blinded me and didn't allow me to see how much like my father, my ex, is, because he had a job. That was really the only difference between the two. You know, my father would get a job and then not have a job and then just stay not having a job. Whereas my ex got a job, keep a job, getting promoted in the job, doing well at the job, and everything was about the job. And that was great until like there was no work-life balance there, but that's obviously another story for another day. But even that came with the male privilege and the male dominance thing. His work was more important than my work because his job is outside of the home, and just downplaying what I do and just making it seem like I'm a lazy ass bitch. Like, I don't freaking know. The checks wasn't lazy though. That's all I knew. But like the male dominance thing, there was just no end to it. And I didn't want to subject 3 little girls to that, because to me, that's what they're gonna end up gravitating towards, the same way I gravitated towards it, and miss those red flags because they think it's normal for their significant other to, one, not be present emotionally, but also not be present physically, you know, not spending any time with them, like not spending time with their mom, like all those things. And so I just didn't want that. And one of the things that was said a lot towards the end of our relationship was that he was a grown-ass man, which nobody was questioning. But he always made it a thing to say that he's a grown-ass man and he could do whatever he wants to do, which is fine. But you are a grown-ass man, but you're also a married grown-ass man, and you're also a father grown-ass man. So it's not just a grown-ass man. A grown-ass man that's living in his mama's house could do whatever he want to do, but like a grown-ass man that's married has to have boundaries, and there just was no boundaries there. That also played into the male privilege. You know, what I say goes, what I'm gonna do, what I wanna do, and you really can't stop me. And if you try to stop me, I'm gonna make it worse for you, which was very much what happened. So we're gonna get into more recent stories when we continue spinning the wheel and like, you know, getting into the other stories that have to do with the power and control wheel and my other experiences with that. But you really can't see clearly when you're in something. When you come out of it, you could see all the things like, oh, that is what I experienced. Oh, that is what that was. Oh, that is, you know, dominance, gender roles, whatever. I couldn't see it while I was in it. And another thing, which I'm probably gonna do a whole video about, is not realizing how stressed and depressed you are, how mentally exhausted you are. I've been trying to find a picture or a video of my bedroom while my ex was still here versus what my bedroom looks like now.
I would like to see it.
And like, it's night and day, and it's scary. And I was so embarrassed, like actually embarrassed by my bedroom when my ex was still in the picture. My bedroom was a mess, just laundry everywhere. Not like hoarders where there's like garbage and stuff, but like laundry everywhere. I'm not doing my laundry because I don't really go out much anyway, but like I would never want anybody to see it. I would always want to clean it, but then I wouldn't be able to clean it because my ex wouldn't want to help me with watching the kids while I'm cleaning it. And that was obviously problematic for me. So like I couldn't do anything. And so desperately wanted to get it clean because I hated looking at it. And it was every time I came into my bedroom, it would be so heavy in here because my mind had just been so toxic while I'm dealing with the breaking down of my marriage and how I'm being treated and, you know, all those things. And so my room just became like this cluttered place, and I just couldn't get it clean for the life of me. And then after my ex left, we did one big clean, and it's just been clean ever since. And so I wanted to do a video about stuff like that. But that's pretty much it. If you guys have a story you want to share, leave it in the comment section below about an experience you had with dealing with somebody that was using male dominance or male privilege to tell you what you need to do as their partner, as a woman, what your role is in the relationship, and if you stayed and ignored it, or if you left because of it. I love you all so much, and I will definitely see you in the next one.